Director MMTCAMU, Professor Jasim Ahmad IASE, and Professor Sadi Jamal for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to have an interaction with the participants. And as you may be aware, that the topic for the discussion which has been given to me is about inclusive education. I think the slide is visible to you all. Can anyone tell me?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, okay, thank you. So the topic which is to be discussed in this session is inclusive education, basically. But here I have written students' diversity and inclusive education. You can imagine the reason behind. If there is no diversity, and if there is no any problem of full participation of all, equal or equitable participation in education of all the students across the country, then there would not have been the question raised towards inclusive education. Then the idea of inclusive education should not be there. So as soon as the idea of inclusive education comes in, it comes as a solution of the problem. The problem is that in India we have diverse culture, diverse social background of students, diversity at different levels, of different nature, of different, dimensions, maybe it religious background, social background, spiritual background, cultural background, family background, economic background, and there may be a variety of other factors of diversity. There may be biological type of diversity because of physical handicapness or mental retardation or learning disability or any such disabilities because of which the students lag behind because they are not given proper attention in the classroom. So basically, inclusive education is a solution to the problems of full participation of the learners in the classroom, in the school setup, in the university setup, in any institute of learning, whether it is at school level or higher education level. So basically, the problem begins from diversity and ends up when we actually implement the idea of inclusive education. That is very important. And that's why UNESCO writes it's in opening paragraph, opening page of the document, a dynamic approach of responding positively to people diversity and of seeing individual differences not as problems but as opportunities for enriching learning. So it is said to all the teachers, all the parents, all the educational policymakers to use and to consider and to look at the diversity with a positive bent of mind and use these diversities as an opportunity, not as a problem, not as an obstacle, not as a difficulty, not as a barrier, but we need to exploit all these diversities and differences, individual differences, because of so many factors and opportunity. Because if we use them as an opportunity, we can, get lots of benefit out of this diversity. We will be discussing with so many examples in our discussion how diversity can be exploited as an opportunity. We will be discussing in detail of time. So, as I have already said, this is the basic idea that ensures equal learning opportunities for all students, regardless of ability to participate in mainstream school. Any student who comes from any background, rural background, urban background, semi-urban background, poor background, economically backward background, any background, any geographical trade, every learner is required to provide that sort of opportunities, that sort of infrastructure and resources, so that he or she can achieve to his or her fullest capacity, fullest potential. It is not conceived and it is not said that each and every learner will progress equally. Each and every learner will achieve equally. Each and every learner will, will acquire, knowledge and skills and capabilities equally. Well, it is not, because each learner has, different abilities also, different level of interest also, and different potential also. So whatever potential I have, I must acquire knowledge and skills and competencies as per my potential. So if there are, say, 50 students in the class, all 50 have their own potentialities, own capabilities, and everybody should be given chance to learn and develop and progress as per their own potential. The problem is that some of the students are getting resources, getting opportunities to develop to their fullest capacity, and some are, most of the students are such who are not able to achieve their fullest potential. They are lag because of so many other factors. If I don't have book, then how I will be studying? If I don't have, resources to conduct activities, to conduct practicals, to conduct experiment, how will I use my skills, and how I will test whatever I'm trying to test? And because of the lack of resources and lack of opportunities and lack of infrastructure, I may not be in a position to develop my fitness potential. So that is important. Everybody should be given a chance, opportunity to develop this fullest potential. This is very important. It also tries to ensure access, equity, relevance, participation, and empowerment for all learners. All learners. Modifies curriculum, pedagogy, and school environment. So there was days, almost 25 years or 30 years or 40 years before, an attempt was made to provide learning opportunities to all, to include all of them for better learning. But there was no any change in the curriculum, any change in the pedagogy. Teachers used to teach in the same fashion as they used to teach earlier, as they used to teach a normal student, a general student, who has no any biological or sociological factors, sociological, deficiencies or biological deficiencies, any issue, any problem, they are being taught in the same fashion as the normal students are. In the concept of inclusive education comes in and says, no, you can't teach both types of students in the same fashion. We will have to modify the curriculum so that everybody learns. We will have to modify pedagogy and school environment so that the learning opportunities are available equally to all. Everybody can, avail the resources and opportunities for the fullest potential to develop it. So it also focuses on accessibility, equity, and participation. As I said, then moves beyond integration towards full inclusion. There are two different concepts. There was a day when we were talking about integration of disabled children, children with disabilities, children with special needs, in the normal setup, in the normal classroom. But now the term integration is not being used. Now we are using term inclusion. And how it is different, we will be discussing just a few slides later. So diversity in classroom, different learning styles, linguistic and social, cultural and economic diversity, gender diversity, varied abilities and disabilities, as I have already spoken of. All the possible factors, all the possible dimensions, all the possible types of diversity. The factor may be, the basis may be anything. All are supposed to come under the same umbrella. Under the same umbrella. So that everybody can develop and progress. Everybody has a chance to develop and progress as per their own potential, which the nature has given to them. Now here, I was just talking about integration. These are the four important concepts, which is basically the evolutionary history of inclusive education at the global level, not only in India, but at the global level. So there are these four important concepts. The beginning, the early history of inclusion, you can say, that is when there was no any concept of inclusion. When there was no any thought process at global level, thinking about how to benefit those who are at the disadvantaged group, who are because of some biological or sociological or economic or cultural or religious factors, they are not in a position to have mainstream education. So a kind of exclusion was being, practiced directly or indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly. It was a practice, exclusion. Children with disabilities were denied education. If you are deaf, if you are hard of hearing, how can you study in the class? How you will be able to listen to the teacher? If you are having low vision, and if you are blind, if your children are blind, if your sons and daughters are blind or having low vision, how they will be studying in the class? So admission were denied. There was no any provision of getting all these such learners enrolled in the class, enrolled in school setup. So a kind of exclusion was there. And parents used to have patience. What can I do if the nature has given such children to me? If God has given me a son, a daughter, having no vision, what can I do? No education is possible. These kids. So parents were also ready to accept that exclusion. And they used to, left this onto the God, the supernatural power. खुदा ही नहीं ऐसे खुदा ने हमें ये ऐसी औलाद दी है, ये ऐसे बच्चे दिए, हम क्या कर सकते? That kind of thing. There was no any mechanism at the government level also, policy level also. So a kind of exclusion was there at the global level. At the global level. Then global leaders, especially UNESCO, UNICEF, used to thought about that. No, how can we left a large number of such students out of the education system? It's not good at all for the welfare of the mankind, for the welfare of the society, for the welfare of the community, for the welfare of the nation at large. There should be some arrangement for their education of those who are blind, education of those who are hearing impaired, education of those who are mentally retarded, and so on and so forth. And so another step, another historical development takes place, and that was segregation. Of course, in those days, it was acceptable that these type of kids, these type of students cannot be taught in a regular classroom, in a general classroom with a normal child, with a normal level, with a normal students. And so segregation was adopted, and especially schools were opened in different part of the country, in different part of them. Especially schools, totally isolated learners. Even today we have in India, and of course in other part of the world also, especially schools for blind. We have in Delhi, we have some schools. In different part of the country, we have such schools. Especially schools for blind, especially schools for hearing impaired, especially schools for multiple disabilities learners, especially schools. So this was of course this was a progress in those days. It was perceived to be a paradigm shift in the field of education in those days, when this idea came into being, and when this idea was transformed into practice by opening of especially schools in different part of the world and different part of the country. this was one step ahead. It was always good. It was always accepted and welcomed that, it is much better than denying education to these children, denying education to special children, disabled children, denying education. It is always good to have special schools for them, segregate them and teach them separately. This was kind of, so this came into being, segregation. Then another question came in. Another question. After all, both these learners, both these type of students who are studying in normal school or who are studying in special schools, both of them have to come to the society, come to the world to spend their normal life. They have come to the family to live with other people surrounding. And if you are separating them from normal children, then a kind of psychology is developed in the mind of those special kids that they are not good as much as they are the normal children. So psychologically, basically, you are harming them. Psychology, you are depressing all of them, those special school children. And if they are separated at this stage, how they will be able to adjust into the normal functioning in the society, wherever they are working as employee in schools, college, universities, organizations, institutions, companies, workshops, factories, anywhere, wherever they are working. They have to work with the normal people. And so another development takes place with the idea that no, segregation is not good at all. Segregation is not good. Segregation is basically a kind of mistrust and a kind of accepting their disabilities, accepting that they can't learn as the normal can learn. They can't do as the normal can do. So this idea was now rejected. And then the third stage came in, that is integration. No, integration. Integration. Mainstream schools placed children with disabilities but did not modify teaching methods. Integrate kar diya. Now, remove segregation, teach both types of learners, the normal child as well as the physically handicapped, mentally handicapped, visually impaired, mental retarded children, all types of disabilities children and the normal children should be taught together under the same roof, within the same classroom. So this idea came, integration. This was integration. This was integration. So those who were disabled children now being taught along with the normal children. This is kind of integration. Teaching. Teaching both together, teaching both types of learners together in the same class, by the same teacher. But what happens? Then the process went on for years and years and years, maybe 10 years or 15 years or 20 years. It was felt during analysis, the observation, curriculum analysis, outcome analysis, we are not getting the good result. There are issues. We have allowed both types of children to sit together and to learn together and to work together and study together. But we are following the same curriculum as it was earlier for the normal school. The teacher is also teaching in the same fashion as they have been teaching in the normal school. The teacher is teaching with the same, level of their pitch and voice and body language and the blackboard and whiteboard. which are generally used for the normal students, what modulation the teacher is bringing for those who are unable to listen and for those who are unable to see. What? Nothing. So it was felt that no, integration is again not working properly, not fruitful. Integration से काम नहीं चल रहा है. Although we have progressed a little from exclusion to segregation and then from segregation to integration, we have progressed, but this progress is not, satisfactory to the world, to the nation, and for the betterment of the entire country, entire population, you can say, entire generation, you can say. If in a classroom, one or two deaf student is there, one or two visually impaired students is there, what the teacher is doing for them? Delivering the lecture. You are delivering lecture in the class, writing something on the blackboard, showing something to the class, but that student who is unable to view, no vision at all, they will not be able to write down from the blackboard, and they will not be able to see whatever you are showing to the class. What have you done as a teacher? What pedagogy you have modified for that, for those students? And those who are having hearing issues, hard of hearing or deaf, they are not listening to the teacher's lecture. What arrangement the teacher has made, what arrangement the school system, the college system, higher education system has made, and what arrangement has the education system in large has made for us. That is required. That is required. And so came in the idea of inclusion. The curriculum should be adapted. Curriculum should be molded. The whole environment should be created in such a fashion that every learner learn as per their potential. Every learner. No learner complain, I'm not hearing, I'm not listening, I'm not able to do this. I want to do, but I'm not able to do. I want to write, but I'm not able to write. I want to perform this activity, but I'm not taking the opportunity. I want to deliver lecture. I want to participate in debate and competition, but I'm not allowed, etc., etc. No. Everybody, every learner in the class, in the school, in the university, in the colleges, everywhere. So the whole curriculum is required to modify. Whole environment is required to modify. To suit to the each and every, learner, especially those who are disabled. So this is the total evolutionary history of inclusive education, starting from exclusion to segregation to integration to inclusion. Here you can see by a diagram. You can see here, top left diagram is showing exclusion. The green color, the blue color, and the yellow color. These are the, maybe you can understand these are the students. So some sort of students are within the circle, and those having disabilities or any disadvantages, they are excluded from the circle. Excluded, totally excluded. This is exclusion. We have excluded. And exclusion was so blatant and so blind and so prolonged that the people from excluded background used to develop certain thinking and certain philosophy that education is not for them. Learning is not for them. School is not for them. College and university is not for them. This kind of thought process. My work and my children's work are to engage in agriculture and some other activities, not education. That was exclusion. Then came segregation, you can see here. top right corner, segregation. Normal is there within one setup, and all those who were excluded, now they are clubbed together within a smaller circle. So some opportunities are more, but they are segregated from their normal children. That's what kind of segregation. Then you can see integration. The third stage, integration. The whole segregated block was allowed to enter into the normal school setup. But within that setup, they were treated, they were educated, they were taught with a separate block. And I have observed these things. Once I used to be the part of monitoring of Sarv Shiksha Abhiyan, and I have seen this particularly integration in different, thousands of schools in the country. You must have observed that the same thing. Some particular section of children coming from some particular, social or economic or cultural or religious background, they are supposed to sit together in the class in one corner, and they are just sitting. Teacher is not giving attention to those kids. They are teaching that, some normal aspects. And normal may be defined in different fashion. Not only physically normal, general students may be coming from higher state of society, maybe coming from high religious background, maybe coming from high economic background, maybe coming from high socio-economic background, so on and so forth. This is integration. Now, what is required? Inclusion. This is inclusion. What is inclusion? Coming together with totally mixed group. Every learner has chance to learn from one another. And every learner should be given all such opportunities which are provided to every other learner of the class. There cannot be biased attitude towards any learner, no matter from what background they come in. This is what is required. This is real inclusion. If we can do that, this is real inclusion. And this is what National Education Policy 2020 is talking about. NEP 2020 is talking about. Real inclusion. You have to practice that. How we will achieve that? This is another point of discussion. But this is the current idea of inclusion at global level. And for that, to bring total inclusion, complete inclusion, full inclusion, there are certain principles which are supposed to be followed, which are supposed to be practiced. And the first one is access. Access. Ensuring inclusive education despite geographical and demographic challenges. Access. I am recalling, my B.Ed class, in my Bachelor of Education program, when there was a part in my syllabus, we were supposed to study universalization of elementary education in India. Universalization of elementary education in India. This was adopted in India after the Constitution of India was implemented in 1950. There was a provision in the Directive Principles of State Policy, Article 45, BPSP. Those who are from political science background, they must be aware about that. The state shall endeavor providing free and compulsory education to all the children up to the age of 14 years. This was the provision in Article 45. So it means the state was supposed to provide. Then, of course, there is a
I think sir has got disconnected. Let us wait for him to join back.